we've got the start of July, new project, and so we've got 3 weeks of July. And then, yeah, so the date's here, that's when we'll fit. Our last Thursday is the 17th of July, and then starting back on the 21st of August. That's the dates. Yeah, a few bits and bobs to talk about. So I've been getting ready for Lee Art Trail. So I've got lots of pictures packed and ready to hang, so I'm going to pop those up tomorrow. I'll be at Milling Deli, 90 Lee Road. They open Tuesday to Sunday at the moment, so they'll be open sort of over the weekend. And I'll be there the 2 Saturdays of the trail. And I may pop in other times, but I'll be there all day the 2 Saturdays, depending on what's dry.
It's a light
Yeah, so that's the dates. So with the art trail, I've got bought my greetings cards in, which I'll have on sale. But if anybody wants any now, they're there. 250 each or 5 for 10 quid. This is with the art trail, we do like a little auction. So we sort of donate something or other. So this is the painting I'm going to donate to the auction. So if anybody fancies putting a bid in, you're very welcome to. We've got the bidding cards here. Sometimes they've gone for something close to market value. Other times I've not had any bids whatsoever. So feel free to buy whatever you fancy in there. So that's that, and the little cards are there. That'll go up at the Millie's, but yeah, you're welcome to. If you're interested in that as well. I think that's it on the art trail. Oh yeah, the other thing to mention is on Sunday, going to have a little plein air painting, sketching session. So that'll be like Southend plein air and the Lee Art Trail. You know, it's sort of themed around that. And we're going to be in Old Lee, just around by the Crooked Billet, or it could be anywhere in Old Lee. But if you fancy joining us, we could just meet up at 11 o'clock, sketch or paint for a couple of hours or an hour and a half, something like that. So you're very welcome if you want a little bit of sketching gear or paints or anything. If you fancy any plein air painting, that's on Sunday. This coming Sunday. Yeah, the theme. I've gone and forgotten the easel, so that's gone. I've got the easel. I've forgotten the curtain things that I sometimes bring in. So to improvise a little bit today. I thought I'd do a little bit something to do with, well, summer. I thought that's kind of a summery theme. I'm thinking like beaches and seaside, and really, if you fancy doing something along the theme of summer, however way you want to interpret it, really, sort of leave that to you. But I'll start to think about beaches and things when it's summer. So I was thinking, this was a photograph I took just looking out the window over here. I think these a couple of years ago. And I was thinking I hadn't really done anything much with figures and people for a while. This is very much the sort of thing that I'm interested in. I've always liked people absorbed in some sort of activity. That really appeals to me. So people in some sort of landscape or interior context. But I really like this sort of thing where people are doing something. I'm not very fond of somebody sitting for a formal portrait as such, but I rather like these sorts of subjects. So this is something I snapped while I was just looking out the window, I think. And with these sort of subjects, sometimes I do quick sketches, but it's very difficult to get everything down quickly. So as well as quick sketches in the sketchbook, I would take photos as well. And then sometimes they get used as references for paintings. Drawing figures, I like to just start off fairly sort of loosely, just kind of visualising roughly where everything is going to go. So I think I'll concentrate on this chap. Obviously I can't quite see all of him, so I can just draw a section and then start to draw for it as well. So drawing just lightly, could be like a pencil, and then so that I'm thinking his head's there, the angle of his face and his features is something like that. Something like that would be eye level, and the back of his ears probably coming in about there. And then start to just get a few lines in roughly where I think the limbs are going to be, almost like a stickman type figure to start with. And this is really useful if you're painting or doing this kind of pastel or charcoal drawing. If it's an ink drawing, I would just go straight in with the contour lines, with the outlines as such. But this is quite a nice way to work. I'm just looking at his torso, maybe something like that. So just trying to imagine where his spine would be in his leg there. And then working around his hands. Actually, there's another little figure in here, so it's going to probably turn into more of a grouping. So she would be there, and then this little lad, his head is coming to about there, I think. And none of this needs to be fixed. It's just visualising where everybody would be. So that'd be enough to get me started, and then I would then go in with a little bit more definition. I tend to get things like eyes and features. And then just really work into the shapes I can see then. So his forehead's come back here, so his hairline's here. Just work back through. I think the back of his head's about there. Hairline, and then his back of his collar's roughly in line with his glasses. It's about there. So once I've got something located, I can scan across and just see how that fits in with everything else. His collar's coming around here. That part of his collar actually is further back than I've got it. That feels a little bit wide, so I'll probably have to just adjust that. The front of his shirt. Probably quite a bit of foreshortening on this part of his arm here. So that's really coming down to about there. And again, I can relate that to his head. That his elbow joint is going to be related. Right, let's take that out of the plastic. It's probably going to help me. That's a bit better. Just seeing where that lines up, that's roughly about there, where he's joining his arm. And then his forearm's coming across here. His arm there. His hand, his thumb's about there. I could check this length, again, something I've drawn already. And looking at that, that's looking a bit short. So that's his head. One, that's about 2 heads. Yeah, nearly 2 heads to get me. So actually, yeah, it needs to come out a bit further, perhaps out to here. Bring that out a bit more. He's holding a sort of crabbing line with the little girl. And the little girl's hand is just tucked in there. And then come back there. It's always good to look at these little shapes, negative shapes. That's probably a bit too wide. So bring that back in. And his other arm and across here. His shoulder. I won't draw the whole figure, but you hopefully get an idea of the sort of looking process. That's his shirt sleeve is to there. And the other part of his arm there, and then the other part of his forearm is about there. So that would be about there. And then her hand is coming up there. You see the top of the head just tucked in there, actually, a little bit further back. Yeah, and then face in there. And then his head. Yep, his head's going to be about there. Is that enough to kind of get you started? So it's basically just kind of drawing whatever I encounter as I see it, really, and just, relating these shapes. I don't feel like I've got to complete him before I draw the next one and the next one. just looking through this series, trying to break it down into a series of shapes and how one shape relates to another, scanning this way, scanning that way, and looking at one bit in relation to another.
Can I ask as
Yep.
well, Paul, that the picture the drawing you've just done is bigger than the one you're looking at, isn't
Yeah.
it? So did you have a proportional?
I don't. It's not. Yeah. It's. I just
You didn't
went
measure
for
it
it.
as a proportion. You just copied the shape.
No, I think what I tend to do is I sort of think I want my figures to fit between here and here,
Right.
and if that's the case, roughly, I didn't actually measure that out, but you could do, would be a good idea.
You just
If that's the
sort
case,
of,
like figure here to here, perhaps the head, I've decided the head there. I could measure that, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've probably got his head too big actually.
No, I was just curious because I go, if I'm copying something and
Yeah.
I make it bigger or smaller.
Yeah. There's a couple of different ways to do it. So you could think, well, that's the size it is there.
Yeah.
I could, if I want to make it bigger, I can make it twice that. So let's measure that. So it will be, that's one head. So another head would be there.
Yeah.
So I could just double everything up.
Yeah.
Another way is to think, I want him back here and here. I'm guessing his head's going to be about that big. If that's
You're
the case,
just concentrating on the people, not the whole painting, the picture.
the whole thing. I would, see, this is easy to get a straight line here and a straight line here. So it would be easier to get the figures in and then draw the landscape in relation to that.
Yeah.
Now that's a bit unfortunate because you wouldn't really want that lining up exactly with his head because it looks odd. So you're best to bring that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to make that a better composition.
Yeah.
The feet bit's all right, but it's much easier to draw the figures and then draw the landscape around them.
I've realised from you that drawing the middle bit first is
Yeah.
better than going that
Yeah,
way.
it's easier because you're just adding on little bits. Whereas if I then decide it's there and then I've got to break all those down, it's very, very complicated. It's much easier to think, I'm going to roughly draw there, then I'll make his head that big. That fits in, say, 5 times. I could measure that down. And once I've got a head, I can compare that. Like that head, I think it fits in twice, say from the shoulder to the finger, so whatever I've got here, 1, 2. So it's sort of drawing it in proportion.
Yeah.
It's like keeping that ratio. But you just have to have one fixed thing there. Just decide on something. Sorry? Well, you basically, if you decide on, like the head is going to be my unit of measurement.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You have like a unit of measurement.
Yeah.
So you just pick one unit of measurement. Don't pick 2 or 3.
You called it something ratio.
Oh, yes, a ratio. Yeah, sort of the ratio would be like, if I'm measuring his arm length, I can measure his head, and that fits in twice. So it's like, I just need 2 heads. That's the sort of ratio then. Yeah. And I could do the same down here, the whole thing, maybe 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit to get down there. So yeah, I made that far too big for the length, but you would measure
But
that.
as long as you do 5 of that down, it'll
Yeah.
work.
Yes, yeah. As long as you just keep to one thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably, you probably want to measure just like that. Maybe not that as well, that width, not the width as well as that. Just fix on one thing, and just and then that way you can measure anything in relation to that, and it should be in proportion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it takes a. Once you get used to it, it's kind of
I'm still getting used to it.
yeah. All good.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Right. Okay. Good.